Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm Joe Marion, president of the ITAD Association. Before we get started today, I just wanted to highlight something that we're seeing across the ITAD industry. As you probably heard recently, the ITAD Association, that's us, merged with Terra, which was an association of ITADs. And we've welcomed dozens of companies into our network. We've expanded our global reach and we're strengthening collaboration across the industry. During the onboarding, we discussed integrating about 70 Terra companies, and we're continuing to build a stronger worldwide iTech community. But what's equally exciting is that we're seeing a new generation of technology partners joining the ITAD Association, particularly AI-driven companies. Their focus isn't replacing ITADs or brokers or resellers. It's really about helping them move faster, make better decisions, and extract more from the data they already have. Today's presentation from PyxTech, who is a new AI member of the ITAD Association, is a great example of that trend. AI and automation are beginning to solve very practical problems for our members, such as evaluating mixed OEM asset lists in minutes rather than days. As the industry continues to evolve, the companies that successfully combined deep market expertise with intelligent technology will have a significant competitive advantage. That's one of the reasons why we're really excited to see innovative companies like PyxTech become part of the ITAD Association. Billy, take it away.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Billy Marion. I'm the VP of the ITAD Association, and I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to join us today. If you've spent any time buying, brokering, refurbishing, or remarketing IT equipment, you've likely experienced the challenge that we're going to be discussing today. A seller sends over a spreadsheet filled with equipment from multiple OEMs, dozens or hundreds of part numbers, and a seemingly endless list of assets to evaluate, and the race begins immediately. Too often, those lists get routed to specialists, procurement teams, partners, and internal experts while everyone waits for pricing. And meanwhile, another buyer may already be responding with an offer. The reality is simple. In the secondary IT market, speed matters. The organizations that can quickly evaluate opportunities and respond with confidence often put themselves in the best position to win the business. That's why we're excited for today's session with PyxTech, who also happens to be one of the ITAD Association's newest members. Their team has been focusing on helping organizations streamline the asset evaluation process, centralize pricing intelligence, and making it easier to identify both purchasing and resale opportunities from large mixed OEM asset lists. Today, we're joined by two members of the PyxTech team. And first off, we have Todd Bone. If you're not familiar with Todd, the legend of Todd Bone, I'm not exactly sure where you've been the last couple of decades, but Todd is a highly respected leader in the global ITAD industry. As a founder and former CEO of XSI, Todd built one of the industry's most recognized providers of IT lifecycle services before leading the company's successful acquisition by Evernext. With decades of experience in asset recovery, remarketing, circular economy strategies, and technology lifecycle management, Todd has helped shape best practices across the secondary IT industry and remains a strong, trusted voice among ITADs, brokers, resellers, and the rest of the ITAD world. We're also joined by Zachary Smith, who works directly with companies leveraging the PyxTech platform to transform incoming asset lists into actionable pricing and supply intelligence. Zachary has helped organizations better understand how technology can support faster decision-making and uncover new revenue opportunities throughout the asset lifecycle. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Todd and Zach. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today, and the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Billy. Zach, do you want to give a quick background about PyxTech?
Sure.
Yeah.
So PyxTech started as a digital services company developing enterprise applications for companies big and small, working with OEMs all the way to logistics companies. And during that time, we recognized the opportunity that was there for these lists that come in and leveraging newest technology to help ITAD specifically process these lists. So we began working on developing a solution that would hopefully help ITADs scale, especially as M&A comes into this type of world. Todd's a great example of that. And so we came up with the PyxArm solution, and where it's constantly a work in progress. It's ever evolving, just like the ITAD industry is, especially in these most recent years.
Great, Zach. Yeah, so I ran into PyxTech at we were still the ACDI Association at the time down in Fort Lauderdale earlier in the year. And, having run an ITAD company where we had 15 sales reps, project managers of ITAD projects, even more purchasing type people. Eventually, that list that they would get, sometimes 10,000 plus assets, would work its way to me for approval. And of course, data is all over the place. There's some equipment we were able to get values on, some equipment we couldn't get values on. And I had to wonder, where did all this data come from for what we should offer on a project? And then started asking questions. We've been working on this list for a week. It just seemed all over the place and unorganized. So when I got a demonstration of PyxTech, I thought, wow, this is a game changer. So obviously, you guys know, the faster you move in this marketplace, the faster you get back to your clients with an offer. If it's a fair offer and they don't have an offer from other entities, more than likely they want to get rid of the equipment and go with what you have, especially if it's a well thought out offer. And so being able to take a list and have it price out fair market value. Now, when we're talking about fair market value, PyxTech's going to over 200 marketplaces around the world. So it can be in a particular region, or it can be, let's say it's just in the United States. And they're also able to see what equipment is selling for, take out the highs and lows. Obviously, that if you look on, for example, eBay, there's prices that are astronomical, and then there's prices that seem too good to be true because they want you to call them or contact them. And their algorithm takes out the highs and the lows, and then also takes a look at what the sold data is, how much products have sold for, and then puts it in a timeline and calculates what's the potential value over the next so many months, and compares it to other marketplaces. And at that point, you're getting back usually a unit fair market value, which you have to consider when you're thinking about, if I'm selling retail, how much can I sell this equipment in bulk for? And then through some back-end configuration, when we ran our ITAD, when we calculated fair market value, we were typically 40% off. That was wholesale value. And then somewhere around 40% off the wholesale value is what we were willing to offer for the equipment, especially if we were going to inventory it. So that's all in the platform. The days of, some of your companies have independent or have reps that specialize in a manufacturer or a couple of different lines of equipment, that tracking down people to get answers. A lot of you will send out the list to your buyers and ask them for offers, and then you got to track them down. So, I think the way that the world's working these days, especially with AI, that time frame is over with. I mean, you've got to be faster and be able to make intelligent decisions faster, and that's what obviously AI can do for you. So, having said that, Zach, I'll turn it over to you a little bit and talk a little bit more about it.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm very much a fan of showing rather than telling. So I'll give a couple of pieces from the platform to show you guys what Todd was just mentioning, hit on a couple of examples. I will say I'm personally not a huge fan of just a generalized demo. I very much prefer to actually understand the use case and find the right application within it. So if you have questions or anything like that, you can ask them here, or you could reach out to myself or Todd directly. But
Zach, if I may interject just for 1 second. Yeah, everyone, if you have a question, please feel free to interrupt us at any time. Just click the raise hand icon at the top of your screen, and we'll add you into the chat so you can discuss with our panelists. Yeah. Thanks, Zach. Continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll show you guys a couple of ways that we have within the platform for lists or assets to be quickly researched, arrive at a fair market value, and then get a list and a bid back out quickly. So for a quick example, I'll just do a latitude 5400. I'll pull this up. May take a second. My computer is a little bit slow this morning. It decided it wants the rest of the week off. I wish I could do the same, but too many things going on. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, my computer is real slow today. Can't type either. Latitude 5400. Let's go here. So typically whenever you're getting a list or anything like that, as you are all well aware, there's very rarely do you get a homogeneous list, but it would be nice if we all got lists that were 500,000, 10,000 of just a specific asset. But if somebody on your team or anybody within the organization is looking for a fair market value on a specific system and not a larger list, you can do a quick search. Within here, there's a couple of things that you can see. So we're pulling from a lot of different sites. We're showcasing where those sites are falling. The fair market value, as Todd said, is pulling from a number of sites and then normalizing a lot of data and arriving at a marketplace agnostic fair market value. So you have an idea of where that market, where the market sits. Some places may be listing and selling higher than others. That's something that we also want to show you guys as well, because if there is an opportunity to go sell on a different marketplace and make a few extra dollars, that's a fantastic opportunity. As you can see here, we also have the residual fair market value out to 12 months. So you can kind of see the way that this asset is trending. And then within here, as you look, you can also click on this and see listed, sold from these various different sources and be able to actually go and check your comps. If you've bought a house or sold a house, you know how comps work. Always good to be able to say, okay, hey, this is very much like the system I'm buying or the system I'm selling, and see what that looks like on an actual live remarketing platform or an e-commerce platform. That quick search.
And Zach, one thing I didn't think of, because I was management, is some of you maybe have to get management approval, and they're going to ask, I would just give a demonstration on how detailed the platform is to say, this data is extremely valid.
Yeah, exactly. It allows for the sales folks to defend their offer to an end customer, or even to their management, to Todd's point. If somebody's asking, okay, well, how did you arrive here? Why did you arrive here? It's very easy and quick to just say, hey, I have these, hundreds or thousands of listings in some cases to back what I'm looking at as this fair market value, and you're able to find it incredibly quickly. The other way that you can do it, which is our most used piece and is honestly the most helpful, is the ability to upload an asset list. So as you can see here, there's CSV, Excel, pretty much anything that you can think of. You're able to drop this in here, and it doesn't have to be in a specific format. It will normalize that data and provide it back to you in a digestible format. You're able to drop these in here. It'll throw it into an upload queue. This can take anywhere from a couple of seconds to a number of minutes. I think the most that I've seen as of recently was 20 some odd minutes for a couple thousand assets, which is, I'm not the fastest. I'm not going to claim I'm the fastest to upload items or to search and research items, but being able to get a fair market value on 80+% of those within 20 minutes is a hell of a lot faster than I know I can go. But it allowed for me to go ahead and start digging into the ones that I wanted to double check on. Once you've uploaded it, you can move it into a lot, so you can keep track of the customer contact. You can put in notes, and Todd and I actually had a longer conversation about this when I was out of office for my honeymoon, and we talked about, okay, whenever somebody's out of office, like, how do you manage that with sellers and everything like that? If it's sitting in an Excel sheet on their system, or they have some sort of extra context that not everybody else has, how do you get them to hand that off for non-planned leaves. And within the system, you obviously have access to everybody within that tenant. So if Todd was uploading a list in here or I was uploading a list, I can see what he's got going on. And I can either as a manager or as a salesperson helping to support Todd, I can jump in and help out wherever I can. Within this list, you can see, I mean, mixed OEM right within here. You have that same view. Again, you have some confidence to show you, okay, is this number something that I can pretty quickly off of the jump say I'm good with this number and start my calculations out. If it's lower in confidence based off of a lack of market data, there's not a whole lot of depth, et cetera, or recency in listings. We'll also tell you that so that you can filter through and say, okay, where do I need to apply a little bit more time on these assets? And then to touch on what Todd said again, is that derivation down to wholesale, since wholesale for most assets is not processing at retail. That calculation can be specific to your business rules. It'll suggest a buy range. You can edit this and play with this all you want, and it'll give you an idea of margin of if you were to buy it at X dollars and then wholesale it, it'll give you, an idea of what you would get as far as a margin. It's incredibly helpful for a manager to take a look and see, okay, where are we sitting on this asset as well? So those are a couple of things.
Before you get to generate offer, a couple of my favorite things are if you see the columns in there, last sold and sold date, we can put in through API into your current system that information. So now you've got, your own information compared to what the market-driven information is. Yeah. And then, as you mentioned, I think it's added this once you save this in a lot, you can go back and search lots. So if you get a sales rep has a demand-driven opportunity and say needs, I came out of the enterprise world, so it's a NetApp storage system, it's a particular model. They could go in there and search and see what everybody, whoever else got a list in and price that list, where that list came from based on the seller information. Click on that and automatically contact that seller. So it's a lot faster than, going on BrokerBin and seeing, buy or call me kind of thing where you're starting from zero, right? So two very beneficial things to have that. And once again, as Zach said, it's all centralized.
Yeah. It's all centralized, which is great.
I like the bottom part of before you generate the offer. Let's say that the amount, if you go down to the bottom, is that you click on generate. Yeah, if you go down to the bottom, I think it's at generate offer. That's right. It's right there. Yeah. So you can say this list came up with a final offer of 45,000. Let's say this particular entity, and you can usually get equipment cheaper. You go in and just put 30,000. It automatically populates the per unit price.
Yeah. And it'll apply that 17% across all the assets in this list. The other piece is, as Todd mentioned, from an integration standpoint, there's opportunity here if you don't have an ERP or anything like that to where you can add your own letterhead. You can add your, disclaimers, your terms and conditions here at the bottom. A lot of the folks that I work with make sure that they mention, hey, this is an offer based off of sight unseen. Settlement value may be lesser than the actual offer value, depending on the actual state of these systems once they come in.
A couple of things that are in the works too, if I don't mind Zach mentioning, is if you guys have heard of Kyle Weems at iFixit and FixBot, which is a AI-based tool. We're going to be we're working on the integration of FixBot into PyxTech. Mm-hmm. And so, give you an example. Let's say that there's an enterprise storage unit in here and the customer didn't put a configuration. You can pop on, you'll be able to click on that storage system and ask FixBot, what's the script that the customer needs to run to give me the system inventory such that I know what the configuration is. And then you can quickly email that off to the customer. Or, hey, I noticed that these are, these only have 8 there's one system, Samsung Galaxy, 8 gig of RAM. How much is a 64 gig replacement for that? How much would it cost? How many hours would it take to put 64 gigs into that particular unit? And what's the variance on the cost? And then we'll talk about some more integration in the future. But I think that's going to be a really cool feature coming.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And
Todd, let me and Zach, I don't jump in for a minute. When I first looked at the PyxTech solution, I was saying, well, hell, I can do this myself. With AI, I don't need to pay these guys. But what I'm seeing is, the proposal, the buyer proposal, and all the other add-ons that I wasn't aware of makes it a really valuable time-saving tool.
Yeah, and then the last, the other thing is that PyxTech is the brains behind the trade-in values for Dell and Lenovo, and so they've populated a lot of that information. But be quite honest, we were lacking a lot of enterprise equipment in the system, and so the last few months, the development team has been populating that. So it's ready in real time for enterprise equipment.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing that I will say as well that is a huge benefit to especially the modern age is, for us, we've put a pretty significant emphasis on the integration first capabilities. A lot of our larger customers and clients that we work with, they have their own established process. They have their own established tooling, and having tool sprawl, as somebody who comes from a tech background, I hate tool sprawl. I'm very much I like a central spot. So there's the opportunity for API connection. We also have MCP connection, which if you're not familiar, your AI tool of choice, if I know a couple of folks here are using Claude or ChatGPT, you can connect it in, drop your list into there, put your own, if you say, hey, I really want to keep things in a central spot for whatever reason, you can add your rules, historical sales data, all that extra fun stuff in there, and then have that tooling take your business rules from Claude, for example, and then run and pull data from our side as well, and have just a phenomenal amount of information at your fingertips in your comfort tool of choice. So we try to make sure that we're as easy to work with as possible, and also not to put anybody in a spot to where you got to force somebody to do something different. The goal is really just to make the decisions easier and more defendable to a customer, to a board, to a director, whoever it may be. So that integration is also available with us as well.
Zach, let's answer a couple questions before we move on. So the first one is, can you address the grading shown here?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're right, Sean, that I'm on the board of repair.org, and also with SIRI, the R2 standard. And there's a lot of effort in the industry to come up with a centralized grading system, but it doesn't exist today.
It does not exist today.
That's a great catch.
Yeah, that's a great catch. So on the grading piece, so I know that everybody has their own flavor of grading. Some people use a mix of cosmetic and functional. Some people just do a combination of A, B, C, D, E, etc. All of those are able to be mapped into our system. So whatever your grading is, we can map it in and map it into the conditions that we have. And then also within that, so let's say B and C are both considered a used product, but your C grade is obviously going to be worth a little bit less. If you look at historical sales and then also what's happening in the active market, which our team does whenever we run this analysis, we can put in a calculation to where a B grade is pretty much right on market. A C grade would be 10, 15, whatever that percentage would be lower for your team to have that number be more accurate for your business and what you typically do. So
we have on our plate at the ITAD Association this grading initiative as well. And so if anybody who's listening wants to get involved with us, we could use all the brains that are out there. So there needs to be an industry-wide universal grading system.
Absolutely. And I will say that seems to be, I'm glad to hear that everybody's focusing on it, because I think that's going to be the next step for ITAD in general moving forward, is having that standardized piece. will be incredibly helpful for everybody.
Yeah, the next question was, and obviously it was one of my first questions when I started talking to PyxTech was, can you integrate into the manufacturer's shipped configuration system? It's not the final configuration because a customer may have changed it, but at least getting the initial configuration would be ideal.
Yeah. So right now we're working on that with the OEMs. Each of them has their own, API to be able to call in and pull the serial numbers and all of that. We're working on integrating that in. It's not currently a functionality right now, but we are working on that. It is on the roadmap. As I'm sure all of us all know, OEMs are big behemoths and they move as such. So it's always a slow process.
And then I think we had one more question.
Yeah, that question is for Michael about ERP systems, integration with ERP systems.
We've got APIs in most of the ITAD ERPs or other ERPs. We're PyxTech's a development company, so it's not a sales and marketing company. So the majority of the staff are all developers. So that's nothing hard. Then there was another question about how did the confidence levels get calculated?
Yeah. So confidence levels are calculated a couple of different ways. It's kind of a mixed bag of a couple different things, but I'll show you here. If you hover over it, it'll show you recency of listings. So the FMV age, when it's talking about FMV age, it's talking about how recently was there a listing that matches that criteria, the number of price points, what percentage of those price points or data points that are being calculated to arrive at FMV, what's the weight, what's the percentage of those that are sold. And then also at the bottom here, it may be a little bit small, but it says no matching historical sale. As Todd mentioned earlier, if you upload or connect to have your own historical sales data in here, if it's departing from what you have typically sold it at in the last 30, 60, however many days that you want to set, it'll also call that out and drop the confidence down because maybe you guys have the ability to demand a higher price for that asset because of a variety of reasons. Or if it's super close, it'll just bump the confidence a little bit higher. If it was strong, it'll take it to high or anything like that.
How do you guys handle, some guys might call a product HP, somebody else might call it Hewlett Packard, or if you're from the UK, you might call it, what do they say, Hewlett Packard or something? But so how do you handle that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And one of the things earlier that you had mentioned was how AI can help. And I'm sure plenty of folks here are all very have some level of AI fatigue. While we are integrating parts of AI into this, there's still a lot of the standard old-fashioned intelligence and coding in here. But where the AI is really making a difference is going to be on normalizing the lists, natural language processing as well. So like you said, if you're calling it HP versus Hewlett Packard, the AI is going in and parsing and helping tie into what the standard nomenclature for that asset is, as well as doing a lot of this learning to help make the platform smarter over time, provide you better insights. So the AI is helping in those areas. Natural language is one of those.
I got to throw another one at you, if you don't mind. Pricing. I don't be bashful because if I was still in ITAD, I'd be saying, well, this is cool, but what's the cost? I don't know if you plan to discuss that today, but I think that's what I'd be thinking right now.
Sure. No, absolutely. So for the pricing, we actually do kind of a custom pricing depending on your volumes. The goal for us is to work with you and find how can we help uplift either your margins on resale, how can we cut back your time, and we want to price in conjunction with that. We want to make sure that we're providing the right amount of value with that price. So it's not necessarily a standard price for this. What ends up being a quote unquote chargeable event, if you will, would be whenever you're pulling market intelligence. So by market intelligence, a unique asset configuration like this one, this HP EliteBook, this G830 with this Intel, this storage and this RAM, that would be one. So as you run those, that would be what you would get charged upon. That's the way that we typically charge. But the charge right now the costing is variable according to the business. We don't want to eliminate the smaller ITADs that are trying to take more off their plate, especially if one of the guys that I was speaking with the other day, he was getting 15 lists a day to process, and he could only get through 7, and he was just throwing away the rest. He doesn't run the largest business in the world, but for him, it made the most sense. And we worked with him on finding a price to where he can actually address all 15 lists. And now he's able to actually make a little bit more money just off of he's getting offers out on 15 lists instead of 7. So
Joe, bottom line, somewhere between $500 up to $5,000 for enterprise per month.
Okay, and so it's based on maybe on volume, how many?
It's based on number of
volume
lists
and best
list
use
searches. I mean,
case.
that's how AI is based on volume, right?
Yeah.
So we start you off at different levels, and then we track what your usage rates are. So it's right sized, kind of like an AI, any type of AI platform.
So $500. I mean,
we don't base it on users.
No.
So if you have 20 users, but you're not pulling that many lists per month versus 2 users and you're pulling a ton of lists per month, that might be something similar.
The price sound, I mean, to me, and I'm not selling it, but it sounds fair because I mean, $500 a month. You can't hire somebody to do this for $500 a month, So
Usually not even for $5,000 per month, because then you have to add on overhead, right?
Yeah, fully burden costs and all that. But
yeah,
the biggest thing that I've seen as far as help to an ITAD is, one, obviously the intelligence behind it that allows for the experts that are already on the team to do things faster. And Todd, I know that you worked in sales at XSI, and if you were able to do, and I also work with a bunch of my sales guys, and I talk to them about, okay, if you can do the same amount of outcome for a quarter of the actual input, you can go golf, you can go fish, you can go do whatever the hell you want to do with that extra time and still make the same amount of money. That's well worth it to me. And they are
not me. I'd want to do more deals.
You want to do more work
fishing,
That's old school, Joe. Old school. Zach, can you move on to route?
Yeah, I can touch on route really quickly.
Okay.
So this is also where, to Todd's point, we were working with integrating with FixBot. The idea is that we can tie into the WMS with the WMS, ERP, whatever system you have via API, and pull in the information once you've received that asset and done your initial checks. You check to see, is the grading what the customer said? Is it actually functional? Is it not functional? And then if you are a shop that does refurbish, if you want to do a grade increase or increase what that grading is, it'll give you targets. It'll take into account what you bought it for, what you could potentially get it out in the market based off of all the market signals that we're collecting. And then also taking into account your processing costs. So what's the best path forward for how you should deal with this asset? If it's not really fetching that much on the market, it may just be the easiest thing just to wipe it, wholesale it, get it out the door. If it's an asset that is commanding a pretty good price on the open market in e-commerce, okay, let's wipe it, let's image it, let's clean it up a little bit, and let's put it out there. It'll help with that decision making at scale. And this is also another place where FixBot would be a huge help for those repairs and those processing costs, being able to have your team click in and say, hey, the battery is bad, and maybe the tech is new, for example, and they don't know how to replace the battery, or they don't know how to do X, Y, or Z. The FixBot integration would help those techs on the floor get that information very quickly.
Yeah, also FixBot's tracking the number of hours it takes to do a repair, along with PyxTech, what's the parts that are required and what's their cost.
Mm-hmm.
And then PyxTech allows, here's an example of, if you repaired it, this is what it would be worth, to see if it's worth the time to even repair it.
Got to make sure it's economically viable.
And then at that point, FixBot can be used to actually aid in the actual repair.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some ITAD association members lease, as well as buy sell. And I know when I was in the leasing business, a lot of our contracts allowed the user to purchase the equipment at the end of the lease for the current fair market value. but then it was always an argument. Well, what is the current fair market value? Have you baked in any leasing type solutions?
Yes, we
Yep.
have. So as a part of that view, and I'll come back here really quickly. Like I said, we have visually right now within the platform, we have up to 12 months residual FMV. If my internet will kick on here. But we have 12 months out, but we also have for, I believe it's growing daily. So the last number I saw was about 70,000 different configurations in which we have up to 5 years. That's mainly aimed at helping those leasing companies price upfront and then work towards, okay, as we're nearing end of lease, maybe starting the conversation a year out, 2 years out. Do you want to buy this asset? The expected fair market value at that time is X. What does that look like? And starting those conversations earlier so that they can realize that sale or lock that in well before we actually get to end of lease, and then we have to do the whole song and dance.
While that's loading, let me cover a couple quick questions. Chad asked, how's the data handled that they upload or we API into the system?
Yeah.
Your data is your data, and that's
Yeah.
that's what our contract says.
Yeah.
If you want to work with us and go back and forth, we work individually with clients on their data and in that type of relationship. If we receive customer inquiries for batteries, UPS systems, or other power infrastructure assets, can PyxTech provide fair market value on that? So PyxTech goes out on a nightly, weekly, or monthly basis, depending on what system it is or what item it is. If it's a highly traded commodity like GPUs, we're grabbing pricing daily or nightly. And so we also haven't loaded every single SKU into PyxTech. So, if you have a list that you want, you would give it to us as a client. We'll load it for you and allow our engines to go out and start pulling this data. So within a week or two, all of those SKUs will now be tracked. So we don't, it's extra money for us to have the world's SKUs in the system and tracking that when nobody's asking for them. So that's an easy resolution.
The other thing, Todd, with that as well is if it's not something that we have in our database, another piece of the AI is we're going out and fetching live prices for a smaller subset of data to give a more indicative price. The confidence would reflect that. It would tell you moderate or AI derived. But what happens with that is if it's not something that we're able to either have in the database currently, or there's a lack of information when we're going out and pulling it, every day we have a list that caches and says, okay, this was something that didn't return, and it kicks into that engine as well to start collecting those, especially since obviously there's a demand for it. So if it's not there, as Todd said, within a short order of time, that will start getting populated for pretty much any sort of asset.
David asks, somebody starting out, does it help you find clients? No, we're just dealing in data, not prospecting at this point.
At this point,
Martin asked, RVA product.
No. Yeah, Martin's asking about the grading thing. The ASI grading.
So this confidence level factor and likelihood of it selling? Yes. If there's low volume and we don't find that SKU on many marketplaces or any sold data for that SKU, absolutely, it's gonna say it's a low probability. Zach, there was one question I missed. It was about APAC. How many sites are we tracking in APAC? Do you know?
In APAC, I don't know off the top of my head. It depends on the country. I was looking at it the other day. I think like India, for example, I think we're at like 30 some odd. Australia, we're just about 20. Vietnam, I believe, is just about 20. Hong Kong, I believe, is 16. So it varies by country. As Todd said, we're collecting from 200 plus sites globally, but each of them is segmented by their actual geographic locations.
And just as a reminder, we work with Dell and Lenovo globally. So that's one of the reasons why we're tracking all that information. Okay.
We'd love to let you guys also link into the the ASCDI Equipment Trading Network database, because we get a lot of that kind of information that
Absolutely.
we'd love to share with you.
Let's
Yeah,
cover monetize before we run out of time.
Yeah.
I think that the route, guys, that's really a custom type of thing that we got to work with you. It's best that we integrate into your ERP. Yes, we're already talking to all the ITAD ERPs that are out there. You'll see more of that information coming soon. But one of the things with monetize was at my ITAD, we just didn't have the people, the tools, or the time to take some of this equipment and sell it retail, which we missed out on large amount of profit. And that was unfortunate. It was always on my to-do list to get there, but I just never had the time to figure it out. So that's what monetize does. It allows you to maybe separate let's say I get a ton of choice grade A laptops in, and the other stuff's a bunch of C grade stuff that I want to wholesale out. I don't want to waste time retailing that. But the A stuff I can sit on for a month or two and sell it out on different marketplaces. It centralizes all that and allows you to post to all of these marketplaces in one central software.
Yeah. The benefit to
And
us
it gives you
tracking all these
feedback
sites.
on which it actually gives you feedback on which market is getting the most money for that particular model.
That's exactly right. That's the biggest benefit that I feel is there. Obviously, the ease of use of being able to just push the listings from one spot is great. But being able to actually look at potential marketplaces or avenues that you're not currently engaged in, that are maybe getting even a couple dollars extra per system. If you're putting out 100,000 in e-commerce a year and you're getting an extra $2 to $3 a system, that's a significant uplift for a business.
Sean's asking about the values. Are they country level values?
Yeah, quickly, yes on that. You can change the market on the fly too.
Yes, you can.
So it's real easy to do, and yes, it's definitely based on whatever market you want, whatever geography you want.
That was great, guys. I don't know if you have anything to add, but
Just answer,
how do we
another question.
reach you? How do we reach you? Is the question.
How much time we got left? Because we got we got Paul asking a question here.
Yeah. We actually have 15 minutes left on the clock. So
Yeah.
I mean,
So Paul, Paul asked, does your tool also generate foresight data on when and where equipment will become available across a certain geography or number of sources of used devices? That's a great question. I used to track the age of enterprise equipment, and so that I would know going into the next quarter or next year if I should start looking for a particular model because it reached a certain amount of age past the time of when it was first released. So that's a great question and something I think that we'd have to look into in the future. Zach, I don't think we have anything like that
I
today,
believe it's on the roadmap. I don't know the priority level of it right now. But yes, the team is looking at that and trying to work with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the maintenance industry, we tracked milestone dates for when equipment was released, when it was, 3 years old, you could start finding parts to maintain it in the field, to buy the parts low enough, and then we tracked end of life, end of software support, and end of support dates. So I think those are all in the. I would say that's probably coming next year.
Yeah, at the latest.
By the way, we have all that data. It's just a matter of getting our development team to implement.
And Paul threw out a question. I want to call it, Paul, that is really an honor to have you here today. A crystal ball question. You guys, do you look into the future? Can you somehow predict, when stuff is going to become available?
A little bit, but there's it's an art and a science, right? It's an art and a science. And so my team is phenomenal at the science part. Where something like that crystal ball really comes into effect is having that art. So like somebody like Paul, for example, working with those types of folks allow us to actually get that art integrated with the science. So that's something that we're always open to, is kind of doing a kind of working collaboration to figure out how do we drive that forward for the industry or a specific client as well.
Joe, I think as we integrate more AI in a global level in the platform, a user could probably go in and say, what trends are you seeing of equipment that just started to list out on these platforms? You know what I mean? So I think there
Yeah,
could
no,
be
yeah,
some,
that sounds very logical. Like you
right,
could do that. Yeah.
right. But we're definitely grabbing a ton of data and we're keeping the data. So it's going to be as we grow, it's going to be more data that can be accessed. And we'll probably start publishing some reports too, based on the volume of equipment that's out there, the changes that are going on. Try to maybe trend line when GPUs are going to go up or down, et cetera.
Actually, Joe, I have one of my guys. He does a monthly kind of market report on specific assets and things like that. I think he's wrapping it up today. I'd love to send it to you and Billy, and you guys could send it out to the entire ITAD association as well. It's always really good information that comes from the massive amount of data that we're gathering. So would love to share that with you and obviously everybody within the association as well.
It's funny, the more things change, the more they say the same. There used to be, in the industry many, many years ago, a company by the name of Daily Marketing. And then they released the DMC report that would show, how equipment was trending, what the value they anticipated was going up or down. And it was a printed hard copy report many years ago.
Yeah. So guys, we know every business is different. I've been on a lot of client calls and, this is a development company. It's not a sales and marketing company. So if there's something specific that you're thinking of that you want just to yourself, the development team does a lot of projects. It's not just the software that this company provides. It's also custom projects. So
I think
be
that's
thinking
also
along those lines. Yeah.
That's also Todd's way of saying, if this demo is bad, Zach's not actually a sales guy. So
that's not true at all. But every time I see the demo, it's constantly something new. So it's getting better and better and better. And like I said, it covers both. It could cover any type of equipment, actually. So it's just a matter of getting the SKUs and loading those up and a little bit of customization. Yeah. So if you want more information, you can contact Zach or I think it's in the email, our contact, LinkedIn. Contact Joe, bug him to death. About 2 o'clock in the morning is when Joe's up till. Likes to receive calls until then. And then, we can go over a more detailed demonstration or conversation with you. And we do give away a free trial. So would love for you to try it. Just reach out and we'll get you set up.
Great. And Billy, we'll be sharing this presentation with all the registered attendees.
Yeah, everyone who registered will get a recording of this presentation, and as well as Zach and Todd's contact information if you guys want to reach out directly.
Great.
And that FixBot integration is probably 2 weeks away, maybe. Kyle's writing some special code for that, so I think we'll be able to start demoing that in a couple of weeks.
Great. Good presentation, guys. Everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. Todd over in Italy, I believe.
Italy, yeah, I'm in
Italy. Zach in the great state of Texas. So we're kind of all over the world today. So thank you guys for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.